Good Sunday morning, my garden friends. I'm a little dressed up this morning because it's Sunday. I have an issue with one chicken that will not stay out of my garden. There she is. I have gotten this girl out 3 times. I cannot figure out how she's getting in. I even tried to put a barricade up here and she, oh dang it. I think she's eating the seeds that I worked so hard to plant yesterday. Oh, you getting in here? Come here. Come on. You need to get out right now. This is what happens. Come on. Go, 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 go. Out, 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 out. Out. Oh. That little stinker. Once the garden is more established, I actually wouldn't mind her being in here. Because she'll eat bugs and take care of insects that I don't necessarily want in here. But right now I've got lots of seedlings that her little feet will scratch up, or seeds that I've planted that I don't want her to uproot. In fact, a couple of them got in here earlier this week and I'm pretty sure they ate my sunflower seeds or the sunflower seedlings because they're not there. So, it is so aggravating. But I planted a lot of seeds yesterday, so regardless if she gets any or not, I think we're okay. But while I'm out here, I might as well just show you how beautiful this place is looking. And from my kitchen window, you know, you can really tell the garden is starting to come alive. It's alive! And it's so exciting. So let me show you something. So hard to know where to start, but I will say this to me is, this in the potato bed, which I'll take you to in a second, is really where I'm seeing substantial growth from a week or so ago. Because whereas before it just looked like a black bed, now we're seeing so much color. And the kale is really starting to take off. The beets are taking off. Let me pan out here. So this was my lacinato kale, dinosaur kale. It'll get really tall and it's thinner. This was a kale mixture. So I'm seeing red Russian kale right here with the red veined kale. This is more of your standard green leaf kale. Those might be the only 2 varieties, at least that I've noticed coming up. And then over here, this is the, on this aisle here. I see you. Yeah, I see you back there. Is what's called blue dwarf kale. So it'll be smaller, which is why I planted it on the border. And I'm already starting to see, I think that's pest damage. I'm not sure. So I may have to get out here and put a little spray on them. And for that, I would just use neem oil or maybe the spinosad soap at this point, nothing too extreme. And then over here, these are my red roasting beets. And you know, it's just so neat because if you have a red beet, it's gonna have red veins like this. And there are also yellow beets out here, and not as many as the red in the mixture, but what's interesting is they will have yellow veins. So it's really cool to see how the plant leaves actually mimic what the fruit will look like. And I'll give you another example of that in a second. Something else I noticed is, where is it? Where's my finger? Volunteer tomato plants are coming up all around here, and this doesn't surprise me because I had, what is that? Oh, it's garlic. I had tomatoes in this bed last year, and a lot of them towards the end of the season just fell on the ground, and I just let them decompose instead of trying to pick all of it up. So I'm not surprised that there's seeds in here that are starting to volunteer, and they really just volunteered this last week. So anyway, that is my kale and beet bed. I've got dill and some onions kind of interplanted in there, but it's really starting to look pretty, and I like my little nice rows. This is my garlic slash brassica slash mint trying to take over bed. I'm kind of letting it just do its thing because mint can be a deterrent for pests, and I don't think it's really going to affect these plants too much. So I will pull out some here and there, but it smells so amazing to walk through here, especially when you're weeding and you just get a brush of this mint. It just smells spectacular. So part of me just wants to leave it, but it is definitely, the rhizomes are definitely making their presence known all over this garden. But these brassicas are looking really good. And there, like I said, there is some pest damage on here, which is not surprising since it's May. So I may need to come out and spray them. And I'm hoping now that this weather is starting to warm up that these don't bolt, that I can hopefully get a head on them. That's why I have them on this side of the garden, because there's some more shade over here, especially once the beans and the peas start trellising, that I can get a head off of them. And back here, the peas are really starting to take off, and they will also provide some shade once they really get going to these brassicas in here. Another thing I've noticed is tons of volunteer morning glories. I had morning glories around the perimeter of my squash bed last year, and I'm assuming, I mean, they're all over. They're just coming up all over the place. I'm assuming that when I was kind of tilling the soil and preparing it for the fall and winter last year, that some of those seeds that fell off of those plants just spread everywhere, because I'm finding them all over this garden, which is great because I have a lot of I'm out of breath. Pregnancy, it makes you out of breath. I'm finding their little volunteer sprouts all over this garden, and so what I'm trying to do is kind of pull the ones I know aren't going to be able to trellis. And I'm even transplanting ones that I pull and have a good root on them, and transplanting them to an area that they might do well. So I've got them, that'll be coming up this fence here, which will be the barrier between the garden and the chicken run, the outdoor chicken run. So that'll also be a hedge of protection for them coming in, and will give them some color and interest once we finally move them in there. So there will be peas growing up here, morning glories, and I actually think I'm going to plant a couple watermelon over here, watermelon or cantaloupe, because the sun will be good, and this is a nice sturdy fence. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. This is sort of the end, the end of my brassicas. I have them going all the way down here, morphing into broccoli. Now we're into cauliflower, into purple cauliflower. And here's another example of a plant that the leaves, they have this really, really pretty dark purple coloring on them. And that's because it's going to produce a purple head. So I just think that's neat how the plant mimics the actual fruit that it produces. But along here, I've got all kinds of beans planted, and they have sprouted this week. So, so those are going to start taking over. I can see places where for some reason they didn't sprout for some reason. So I'll just come back out here and put another seed in the ground, and that's fine. It'll be kind of like succession planting. But we've got them over here. Here's a morning glory that I transplanted that's making it. There's peas that are coming up that some of them germinated, some of them didn't. So this will be a mixture of beans and peas and morning glories, which I think will be actually really pretty. But here are the potatoes, and they have just really taken off this past week. I mean, they're probably 6-7 inches high. 6 or 7 inches high. And so I've really got to get some dirt or some straw out here to start mounding them. And when I talk about mounding potatoes, let me explain why that's important. So I talked about the other day I just spotted a strawberry. Sorry. I talked about the other day when I was planting my tomatoes that the tomatoes have little hairs on their stem that if you plant those down into the ground, they will actually turn into a root system. Potatoes are the same way. Once they get taller, you want to mound dirt or straw or something around the base of their stalk, because it will actually produce more roots, which will then for you produce more potatoes. So see, this one's got a pretty substantial root on it, or excuse me, stem on it. So I actually want to come in here and mound dirt and straw up around these stems because it'll allow them to produce more potatoes for me. So that is essentially why you mound dirt. If you've ever read about that or heard about doing that with potatoes, that's why you do that, because it allows them to produce another root system and therefore more potatoes. So there's your tip for the day. I didn't do that last year because to be perfectly honest, I had never grown potatoes, so I didn't understand the purpose of it. I still had a great potato harvest, but I want to do it differently this year and see how much more I can get. And then just one more example. These are actually blue purple potatoes. So they have this really pretty dark blue hint in their leaves, which is funny because that tells me that somehow this little guy got in here and this is not a blue potato, because these are where I had planted all my blue purple potatoes in here. So that one is probably a red potato because these are over here are all red, and then the gold Yukons, and then just your standard whites over here. So they are looking really good, and that's exciting. And the tomatoes that I planted are also looking really good. And I want to show you that I've already started clipping off their bottom stems. These stems were really big and they were touching the ground, so I went ahead and plucked them off. And eventually this one will come off too, because I will want a stem of about 20 inches to 24 inches once this thing starts growing, that I will just leave an open stem like that. So for right now, I'm leaving it because it's not touching the ground. But any of these tomato plants, yesterday I came out and just pruned them if they had leaves that were touching the ground, and that just helps prevent against disease and any sort of rot or anything that might happen. And I just throw these down and let them decompose. And then this is what I was staring at. Oh, we're gonna have so many strawberries this year. It's so exciting. Then they're finally, whoops, I'm sorry. They're really starting to take head. We're gonna have so many strawberries. And this is exciting because we've never been in a house long enough that we've really been able to watch our strawberries grow and get thicker and thicker every year. And so we've been here 2 years and this strawberry patch is just enormous. So it's gonna be really exciting to come out here and have lots of strawberries to harvest. And there's just tons of fruit in here. Yay, so exciting. Okay, so look at this butter crunch lettuce head. So pretty. When I was growing it inside, the leaves were super long and spindly, and I thought, oh, I thought this was actually like a lettuce head, not just what they call like oak leaf lettuce that just grows in kind of like this. But once I planted it in the ground, it really started taking shape. And so these are really pretty. I need to start pulling from them so they'll produce more. And I probably should come plant seeds. So these over here, I think were the romaine heads that I planted. I'm not really sure. And they're already bolting and turning to seed. So I'm just gonna come pull these out because these are already too tough to eat. And then I'm gonna plant some more butter crunch lettuce in here. And then I'm pretty sure this right here is the pink celery, the Chinese pink celery that I planted. I planted from seed last year. I'm pretty sure. These leaves are kind of, I don't know, I don't recognize the leaves, but I recognize the veining on this. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it looks like it's kind of starting to bolt too. I'm not really sure. I'm curious what these celery plants are going to do. They've gotten really big and they're starting to produce like flower heads on them. Where are they? They're there. So I may just let them flower and see what they look like. Take some of the seeds and then I'll pull these out and plant something else in here because they're taking up quite a bit of room. And then my concentric circular yellow brick road bed, whatever you want to call it. This is where, I have a chair over there. I think I'm gonna go sit down in it. This is where I planted a ton of seeds yesterday. Oh, and see? I can see where the chicken was in here disrupting my ground, and she probably uprooted one of my daisies. Oh, that is so frustrating. Oh well. I can't sit down because there's water in my seat and I don't have a towel. Oh well. And I'm in my church clothes. So anyway, this bed is where I planted a ton of flower seeds yesterday. I just decided to make things easier on me this year that planting flowers was more the way to go. but interspersed in the flowers, I actually have vegetables. So like over here, I've got in this corner here, I did sunflowers, and then bachelor buttons and cosmos in the front. I've got all in the front. I've either got nasturtium, had 2 different varieties of that, calendula, marigolds. I'm forgetting something. Can't remember the other one. Anyway, but I just came in here, and I'll have to show you what I did later, because I haven't done it this way in the past, and this made a lot more sense and a lot easier to try to keep track of what I'm planting. A lot of times I'll just come out and scatter plant like wildflower seeds or flower seeds. But what I actually did was I took my my shovel and I just moved the mulch, and I made like a row, and then I would put the seeds of a particular plant there, and then I'd move forward about 6 to 8 inches, and I make another line or curve, and then I put the seeds in there. And I tried to do it in a way that of height, the highest height being the sunflowers and the zinnias and I think it was bachelor buttons and cosmos, and then of course nasturtium and calendula in front. And actually the marigolds I bought can get up to 4 feet, so I had to take that into consideration. So I just kind of put those throughout the garden, a little bit organized, so I could know what was what. And then down here, even in the midst of these flowers, I've got the artichoke right there, another one right there, and let me show you this. There it is, one of my yellow golden zucchinis that I planted, which will really fill in this whole space on the ground. This artichoke will grow up, and this will grow out into this bed. And oh look, that was not there earlier. This is the I forgot the name of it. It's my Italian zucchini that has a really beautiful big squash blossoms. So I have 2 of those in here. They'll take up this space amongst the flowers, and 2 of those golden zucchinis over there. And then I planted a bunch of hollyhocks in here, like a champagne color to go between these already established ones. I just thought if I can get them to grow, it'd be really pretty to have this wall of hollyhocks. And then in front of them, I think I have the marigolds and maybe some 2 different kinds of nasturtiums. So this will pretty much all be flowers except for these squash plants interplanted in here. And then same thing, I planted different seeds. I'd have to go back and look what I planted. Between purple and pink cosmos, nope, I take that back. Pink and yellow cosmos, purple bachelor buttons, some really pretty nasturtiums. And then in this corner, towards the house, I did go ahead and plant 2 cantaloupe plants that I'll hopefully will trellis up here, and they'll grow this way, while the patty pan squashes will grow out this way. And I did notice this morning that I do have some squash coming up over here, and I'm pretty sure that my chickens scratched out the ones that I had planted here, because I'm not seeing any sign of them. So I've got to come back out and plant some squash here. And then I also did a watermelon plant here, just to see if I could maybe get it to grow up this fence. So anyway, I'm gonna have patty pan squash in here, maybe watermelon, maybe cantaloupe, and then all these flowers with the peppers and the daisies that I planted and the herbs. And whoops, gotta watch where I step. I think it's gonna look really nice. Two more things I wanted to show you real quick. Last year for Mother's Day, my kids got me 2 really pretty peonies that are in my front yard. And this year I had got this one, which I decided to put back here by my little sitting chair in the garden. And it's so cool. I think it looks like a tropical sundae or a ballerina dress. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's called sorbet, and I have it sitting here next to my chair that I can sit in the garden and enjoy. And then one other pretty plant is this painted lady variegated tomato plant. And in keeping with the theme of this video, what is so cool is these leaves, again, mimic the fruit because the fruit has this really pretty striped, variegated look on it and it goes through different colors throughout its ripeness. But this is such a pretty plant, and the one I had last year didn't do that great, so I'm really hoping this one will pull through and produce some pretty fruit for me this summer. It makes me slightly nervous to leave my garden knowing that the culprit might try to get in while I'm gone. It's like I'm gonna have to sit out here and watch her and see how she gets in. Oh, it's so frustrating because of course she's gonna hit all the areas that I've got my seeds and my seedlings coming in. So anyway, that's just part of having chickens. If you don't clip their feathers or, you know, I want them around my garden because they eat the insects and they provide fertilizer, but I don't want them in my garden. So I'm going to figure that one out. But for now, that's what's going on here. Everything's really taking shape, starting to look really green and beautiful, and it'll just only continue to grow from here. So again, make sure you're posting pictures of your garden because that's half the fun, is seeing what's going on in everyone else's neck of the woods. And I will keep you advised as to what happens here. Happy gardening.